Welcome to Midnight Pages, a quiet place where timeless literature gently leads you into rest at the close of your day. Tonight, we present a haunting and thought-provoking classic by Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray, a mesmerizing tale of beauty, temptation, corruption, and the hidden cost of eternal youth. Set in the elegant drawing rooms and shadowed alleys of Victorian London, this story invites you to reflect on the soul's fragile balance between purity and pleasure. Before we begin the narration, let us briefly explore the deeper meaning behind this remarkable novel. This reflection will gently prepare you for the tale ahead, revealing the themes beneath the surface and the questions it quietly asks of the soul. This video unfolds in two parts. First, a short introduction, capturing the novel's mood and key ideas, followed by a 25-minute abridged narration of its most unforgettable moments. So now, turn off the lights, find a quiet and comfortable place, and let Midnight Pages guide you into the stillness of the night, where secrets whisper and mirrors remember. Part 1. The Picture of Dorian Gray. The studio was filled with the rich scent of roses. As the summer breeze moved through the garden, the delicate fragrance of lilacs and blossoming hawthorn drifted in through the open window. Inside, the light flickered gently across a half-finished portrait, a painting of a young man, breathtaking in his beauty. His features were calm yet vivid, his eyes alive with light. It was as though the artist had captured more than a face. He had captured a soul suspended in youth. That soul belonged to Dorian Gray. On that warm afternoon, Dorian stood beside the artist, Basil Hallward. He watched the brush glide across the canvas, fascinated not only by the art, but by the feeling it stirred within him. It was as though, for the first time, he saw himself through another's eyes, and what he saw was something precious, something to be feared. Then entered Lord Henry Wotton. With a voice like velvet and eyes that missed nothing, he spoke not of beauty's gift, but of its curse. He spoke of youth as the only thing worth having, and how it would inevitably fade. Dorian laughed at first, but as Lord Henry's words curled through the air like smoke, a strange fear crept into his heart. He looked again at the portrait, perfect and untouched, and then at his own reflection.
"I shall grow old,"
he whispered.
"Horribly old. But this picture will remain always young. If only it were the other way. If the painting could grow old, and I could remain as I am now."
His voice trembled with a passion he did not understand. A wish, made with no thought of consequence, now lingered in the room like an unspoken deal. Outside, the roses swayed in the breeze. Inside, something had shifted, quietly, irreversibly. Part 2. The Temptation of Pleasure. From the moment Dorian Gray met Lord Henry, something in him began to shift. The older man's words echoed like a spell.
"Pleasure is not a sin, Dorian. Boredom is. You have youth, but only once. Savor every moment of it."
Dorian listened, and something inside him stirred. He was no longer the innocent boy he once was. Though his reflection remained flawless, his thoughts were evolving, enticed by the allure of pleasure and unrestrained desire. Then, one night, everything changed. He saw Sybil Vane on stage, not just performing Juliet, but becoming her. Under the dim glow of the theater lights, she wasn't acting. She was poetry in motion, breathing life into every word of Shakespeare. Dorian was spellbound.
"She's art itself,"
he told Basil, wide-eyed.
"I don't love her like a man loves a woman. I love her like an artist loves a masterpiece."
Sybil, in turn, fell for him. To her, Dorian was not just a man. He was the truth she'd long yearned for. With him, she no longer needed roles or costumes,
I never knew what love truly was until I met you.
she confessed.
Now that I've felt it, I can't pretend anymore. Those characters on stage, they aren't me.
Dorian smiled, unaware of what her words truly meant. Each night he returned to the theater, enchanted by her brilliance, his heart swelling with admiration for the woman who seemed more divine than human. But then came the night it all unraveled. The performance was lifeless. Sybil delivered her lines as if reading from a cold, empty page. No passion, no soul, only silence between the words. Disappointed murmurs swept through the crowd. The magic was gone. Backstage, Dorian confronted her.
What happened?
He demanded, his voice sharp.
You were nothing tonight.
Tears welled in her eyes.
I couldn't act.
She whispered.
Now that I love you, the stage feels hollow. Before, I knew only imitation. But now, I've discovered real feeling.
Dorian recoiled.
I loved the dream you gave me, Sybil. Tonight, that dream died. And with it, us.
He turned his back and walked away, leaving her in the dimness of the wings, shattered. That night, Dorian returned home, the echo of the failed performance still ringing in his ears. His eyes turned to the portrait. Something was different. A subtle change, almost imperceptible. A faint twist of the mouth, colder, crueler.
Is this a trick of the light, or guilt?
He wondered aloud. The next morning, Basil brought dreadful news. Sybil Vane had taken her own life. Poison. Quiet. Final. Dorian froze. At first, he felt nothing. Shock, perhaps. But then came Lord Henry, calm as ever.
She was never meant for this world,
he said.
Now she's a tragic heroine, an artist who died for love. Isn't that beautiful in its way?
Dorian hesitated. Something in him resisted that notion. But another part accepted it. He went back to the portrait. Now the change was undeniable. The eyes were different, colder, empty, marked by something he couldn't quite name. He knew then. The portrait bore the burden of his soul. Every sin, every cruelty would be written on that canvas, while his own face remained untouched. That very night, he moved the painting to a locked room, a hidden sanctuary where only he could witness his truth.
No one will ever see this,
He whispered.
Let them believe I'm pure. Let the painting carry the weight.
From that point on, Dorian made his choice. He would pursue pleasure no matter the cost. No guilt, no remorse, only the intoxicating freedom of a life without consequence. Part 3. The Beginning of Corruption. Stains on the Soul. After the death of Sybil Vane, Dorian Gray encountered guilt for the first time. But it didn't last long. What first robbed him of sleep soon turned into self-pity, and then faded into indifference. He told himself,
It wasn't my fault. She was too fragile. Love, sometimes, destroys.
That very night, he attended another party. Beneath the glowing chandeliers, Dorian still smiled like the perfect young man. But inside, something dark had begun to settle. Yet nothing startled him more than what awaited him at home. The portrait had changed. A faint crease had appeared near the mouth, not of age, but of cruelty. The eyes were no longer innocent, but cold and mocking. Trembling, he whispered,
It's really happening. The painting is aging for me.
Lord Henry, ever the voice of temptation, continued to pour his philosophy into Dorian's ears.
Conscience, dear boy, is merely the invention of others. Freedom is doing as you wish, without regret.
Dorian smiled and nodded, but alone, unease gnawed at him. He returned to the portrait more and more often, and each time the changes deepened. Lines of selfishness, shadows of sin, twisted smiles. He could no longer keep the painting in public view. In secret, he cleared out the old attic. There, hidden from the world, he locked away the portrait, his second self, his cursed reflection. From that moment on, Dorian's descent accelerated. By day, he strolled through London society, admired and adored. By night, he vanished into opium dens and hidden salons. He lived for sensation, for indulgence, always untouched, always youthful. But whispers followed.
How does he never age?
What kind of deal has he made?
No one knew the truth. Perhaps not even Dorian himself. Then came a confrontation he hadn't anticipated. James Vane, Sybil's brother, found him. He held a pistol to Dorian's chest, voice trembling with rage.
You ruined her. She's dead because of you.
But Dorian, ever calm, simply smiled.
Me? That's impossible. Look at my face. Sybil died 18 years ago. Do I look a day over 20?
James hesitated. The youth of Dorian's face betrayed the years. He lowered the gun. It worked, but Dorian felt no triumph, only fear. Even if time forgot him, his past would not. He rushed to the attic. The portrait had grown grotesque. Bloodshot eyes, sneering lips, a face stained with malice. He stared in horror.
Is this me?
But he wasn't ready to give in. Not yet. He pulled the curtain over the portrait and walked away. And that night, the city lights welcomed him once more. Part 4. The Collapse of Humanity. Shadows Within. Time passed, but Dorian Gray's youthful face never changed. What did change, what decayed beyond recognition, was his soul. The portrait, once so radiant and noble, had become unrecognizable. It was no longer the image of a man, but a creature twisted by sin, hatred, and corruption. Its eyes burned with malice, its smile, once innocent, now sneered with cruelty. Dorian could no longer bear to look at it, yet it looked at him, always watching, always remembering, every act, every lie, every ruin he had left behind. One rainy night, someone knocked on Dorian's door. It was Basil Hallward, the artist who had painted the fateful portrait. His eyes were full of concern.
Dorian, something is terribly wrong. The rumors about you, they're not just whispers anymore. People say you've destroyed lives, yet you remain untouched. You haven't aged a day. Why?
Dorian said nothing at first. Instead, he led Basil upstairs, to the locked room where the portrait was hidden.
You want the truth? Dorian whispered. I'll show you.
He threw open the cloth that covered the canvas. Basil gasped.
What? What is this? This is not my work. This is a monster.
It is me, Dorian said coldly. Every cruelty, every betrayal, every sin. I cannot hide it. It's all here.
Basil's voice trembled.
You don't have to live like this. Confess, repent. You can still change. Come back.
But it was too late. Dorian's eyes were hollow, his voice without hope.
I can't go back, Basil. I won't.
His hands shook. A scream rose from deep inside. and in a blinding moment of desperation, he grabbed a knife. A flash of silver, a cry, and then silence. Basil Hallward lay lifeless on the cold floor, his blood spreading like ink across the boards. The portrait looked on, unmoved. Dorian stood there, panting.
This isn't real. This can't be happening.
But it was. His own reflection stared back at him from the mirror. Still beautiful, still flawless. But behind those eyes, he saw nothing human left. In panic, he sent for Alan Campbell, a former friend and chemist.
I need you, Dorian said, to dispose of something.
Alan refused, but Dorian leaned in closer.
I know your secret, Alan, and I will expose it, unless you help me.
Alan, cornered and broken, did what was asked. He destroyed Basil's body. Days later, Alan took his own life. Dorian drifted further into the shadows. People still admired him, his beauty, his charm. But something in him had died. He haunted opium dens and back alleys, desperate for forgetfulness. But even in sleep, the portrait followed him. He had escaped age, but not memory, not guilt. He looked in the mirror and saw the same youthful face, but it had become a mask, a lie. He no longer knew who he was. He had murdered his friend. He had blackmailed another into ruin. And yet the world saw nothing but perfection. Perfection, built upon blood. Dorian Gray was beautiful, but what lived inside him was rot. Part 5. Ruin and Final Choice, The Truth Beyond the Mirror. Dorian Gray was still beautiful. His smile still captivated. His skin remained flawless, untouched by time or sin, at least on the outside. But something had shifted in the way others looked at him. Admiration had turned to unease. Praise had been replaced by whispers, subtle distance, and fearful eyes. He was alone now. Some of his friends had disappeared without a trace. Others had taken their own lives, and many had simply drifted away, leaving no explanation. The rooms in his grand house echoed with silence, and the shadow of his past crept in through every door. One night, he stood before the painting once again. It no longer resembled a man. Its eyes burned red, its mouth twisted in cruelty, and its flesh appeared to rot before his own. It was grotesque, monstrous.
This isn't me,
Dorian whispered.
I'm still young, still pure, somewhere deep down.
But he knew better. The painting was not a lie. It was a mirror, a reflection of the soul he had long abandoned. It bore the weight of every betrayal, every cruelty, every moment he had chosen pleasure over conscience. He tried to change. He wrote letters to the people he had hurt. He made gestures of charity, walked through the streets anonymously, seeking forgiveness in small, quiet acts. But guilt clung to him like a second skin, and the portrait did not change. He began to understand. Redemption was not about gestures. It was about facing the truth. Staring at the painting one final time, he cried out,
You are not me. You're a ghost, a curse. I still have a chance. I can be good again. I want to be good.
But the painting seemed to smirk. It knew the truth, and Dorian knew it too. He could not undo the past. He could not silence the portrait. The only escape now was to destroy it, to destroy the evidence, the reflection, the conscience he could no longer bear. He reached for a knife, the same knife he once used to take the life of the man who painted it. With a trembling hand, he raised it high and drove it into the heart of the canvas, the place where his soul had once lived. A terrible cry echoed through the house. When the servants entered the locked attic, they found a withered old man collapsed on the floor, a knife through his chest. No one recognized him, except by the rings on his fingers and the embroidered collar of his fine clothes. On the wall, the portrait had changed once more. It was now the image of a handsome, innocent boy, Dorian Gray as he had once been. His body lay broken, but the lies had ended. His soul, long lost in shadows, was finally at rest. This is how the story of Dorian Gray ends, not with eternal youth, but with the high cost of chasing beauty without accountability, of living without remorse, and of denying the soul's quiet voice until it is too late. The canvas remains, but the man is gone. And we are left with a question that still lingers in the air. Who are you, truly? And when you look in the mirror, is it your face you see, or the hidden portrait of who you've become? Closing Dorian Gray. Thank you for joining us tonight on Midnight Pages. As we close the cover on the Picture of Dorian Gray, we are left with more than just a haunting story. We are left with questions. What is the price of beauty when it is unaccompanied by virtue? What becomes of the soul when we silence its voice for the sake of pleasure? And perhaps most chilling of all, if your true self could be seen on a canvas, every lie, every cruelty, every indulgence made visible, what would you see? Oscar Wilde's only novel is not simply a tale of vanity and corruption. It is a mirror, held up not just to Dorian, but to each of us. It reflects our hidden desires, the choices we justify in silence, and the masks we wear in the name of charm, status, or success. Dorian Gray's tragedy is not that he stayed young, but that he forgot what it meant to grow. He preserved his beauty while letting everything else within him decay. He chose appearance over substance and illusion over truth. But perhaps the greatest tragedy was that by the time he recognized the cost, it was too late to change. As we drift toward sleep tonight, let this story remind us of something simple yet profound. Our actions leave marks. Whether or not the world sees them, our souls do. And in the quietest hours, when we look into the mirror not of glass, but of memory, what we find there is ours alone to carry. So, take a deep breath. Let go of the day's noise, and remember, it is never too late to listen to the voice within. Good night, and thank you for being with us, here on Midnight Pages, where stories linger even after the final word is spoken.